is the Rangers Journal Night.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Rangers Journal. My name's Bob Parran, and we are here today to discuss Nedim Bajrami versus Tom Lawrence. With me today, we've got the General of the Rangers Journal, Kai. Kai, how you doing today, pal?
Yeah, very good, mate. Pleasure to be here. It's quite an interesting topic, and I like doing these kind of shorter videos. You get a lot of content in a short space of time. So, looking forward to it. How's yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Busy day, but I can always make time for the Rangers Journal as always. So, as I said, we're here today to discuss Tom Lawrence versus Nedim Bajrami. Obviously, Nedim Bajrami's just come in at the end of the summer window there for reported, I think it was €4 million. So I think it worked out about £3.4 million. So Albanian international. And we're going to take a wee look at him versus our, our own Tom Lawrence. But we'll go through it as we go. So just as a starting comparison, just the difference in ages, we've got Tom Lawrence, 30-year-old Welsh international versus Nedim, who's 26, an Albania international. Obviously know of him from the Euros, who went and played and scored that great goal against Italy in the opening game for Albania. So yeah, there's obviously a bit of an age difference there. I don't know how that, again, because we're having Nedim come in, he obviously looks to be the fresher of the two players, with a slightly more longevity in terms of the first team squad. But Kai, I'm not really sure if you want to touch on the kind of age of the two players first of all, and obviously the kind of international background of both.
I think the interesting thing on Bajrami is one of the older players were brought in. I think the second oldest actually after Robin Proper. Obviously been going for a lot of players under 23. So, like you say, Bajrami has that. He was obviously playing for Sassuolo in Serie B. Previous experience in Serie A with them and Empoli. Came through a very kind of similar league, probably quality-wise, in the Swiss league. I say quality-wise, I'd say our top teams are maybe better than their top teams, but when you go further down, I think it kind of evens out. I think the quality is probably very similar there. By a lot more current international experience as well. I can't remember when the last time Tom Lawrence played for Wales, but I'm not sure if he's played for Wales while he's been at Ibrox. Not 100%
No,
sure on
I
that.
don't.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think he's maybe been
Matondo's
called up to the squad, but I think I know. Yeah, I know Matondo has. I think he's maybe been in and around the squad, Kai, but I don't think he's got had game time. But again, that maybe come down to the injuries, which again is something we can obviously touch on.
So
But yeah,
it's like I say, it's been a while since he's been a regular international, whereas Bajrami's constantly about there. He's one of the main men for Albania. I think the most interesting thing, we're obviously comparing the two of them, is a 10. He came on at the left last weekend, so it'll just be interesting to see if that's only to cover injuries. Obviously, we've still got a few players out, Matondo being one of the players, and we barely had any wingers at the weekend, so I'm hoping the only reason he came on there was to cover the injuries and we'll get to see him in the 10. But again, so it's more of a not quite the player trading model build that we've seen previously with the younger players, but I still think getting them for that roughly £3.5 million, I don't think we would have been in the market for him if Sassuolo hadn't have got relegated. So I think that kind of tells you the quality of the player we're getting in. And I do think there's profit to be made there when he enters his prime years, like maybe a year, 2 years here. I think we could sell him on for a decent profit.
yeah, I agree. I think he's definitely obviously been brought in to be part of this new fresh cycle that the managers obviously kept kind of going back to, and having obviously mentioned at the end of last season. So I think on that, I think that the interesting thing for me is, again, he's a bit of an unknown quantity. Maybe not so much for yourself, because I know you you like to go into each and every rumour, so you've definitely got more info than probably what I have. But again, for me, it was looking at the difference in between the two players. Again, we've maybe seen more of Tom Lawrence because he's been known to us from his time in the Championship and Premier League, experience through playing with Derby. So we've obviously seen a lot more from him. Obviously prior to coming to Ibrox, and even when he first came in, I for one was looking quite forward to seeing him play. I think in his early games, again personally, I thought he was a really good player, and I thought we were going to go on and see the best of him. Especially competing at the top, top part of the league and in the European games. And again, I remember the goal against PSV, which he got us in the rain with that kind of daisy cutter. Which again, that to me was part of his game when he came in. Kai was, he's a good set piece specialist. He's good at kind of breaking the lines and hopefully being that replacement for like Scott Arfield, who was obviously coming to the end of his time with the club. I know they had that overlapping season, but I think in my eyes, I thought that would be the position that Lawrence would replace, Arfield in the kind of first team squad. And don't know if you want to give us your thoughts, if you thought the same or maybe something a wee bit different.
I thought definitely as a goal scoring midfielder. 'Cause I think one of the biggest kind of qualities about his game, if you're going to watch highlights of Tom Lawrence, it would have been a lot of like 20, 25 yarders, which we've not really seen. There was a game the end of last season that escapes me who it was against. I'm sure we hammered someone at Ibrox and he scored one from distance. I can't quite remember who it is. I'm sure someone in the comments eventually will kind of bring that one up. But it's what he was capable of. He's again mostly probably played on the left, cutting inside in his right foot. But we've just never seen the goal scoring ability since he came back from his injury. I was probably similar to you as well. When he came in, I thought he started really well. I think he had 3 goal contributions in his first 5 games. Then he got that injury, came back, and he just seemed a yard slower, that bit maybe less confident to get stuck in, to kind of drive forward with the ball himself. And now, obviously, the good game last weekend. Hopefully, that's like maybe Bajrami coming in is going to give him that kick and that boost to see the player that we all thought we were going to get. Because again, like you say, he wasn't an unknown quantity coming in. A lot of us have seen loads of him playing at Derby. Plenty of championship football available for everyone to view, and I know a lot of people watch it as well. So we'd seen plenty of him. Also, probably a few seen him come through at Man United as well, where he was like a highly rated prospect and had a few first team games. So there was plenty to kind of digest when it came to him coming in, and there was a bit of excitement. It was quite a big championship signing. I think it's kind of the tides have turned on that now for signing championship players with like him coming in and getting loads of injuries. Dowell as well, and obviously the stuff with Cantwell. I think fans are a lot more cautious in shopping in that market, whereas then it was quite an exciting signing. A player with a lot of technical ability that we thought would maybe stroll it in Scotland in the first 5 games he played, including the European games. Looked like that might have been the case. Unfortunately, the injury happened. He's came back and he's not been the same player. But like I say, hopefully Bajrami coming in that good performance last weekend kind of kicks him on and we can see the play we thought we were getting at the start.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an interesting one, Kai, where when you look at it on the face of things, you wonder if, again, knowing the way Clement seems to play and maybe not risking him from the start, you've now got a bit more rotation in the 2 types of player that Clement wants, with Lawrence and Bajrami coming in to say, Bajrami with the cost attached is likely going to be the starter, but there's definitely nothing to stop Lawrence coming off the bench, and maybe that's the way that Clement looks at it, is those 2 will vie for the 10 position. If teams are tiring, after 60 odd minutes, you bring Tom Lawrence on, a bit of freshness, although, as you've kind of touched on, he's maybe not got the legs that we thought he would have had, or he had prior to his injury. He should definitely be a threat even from the bench. And again, obviously, just due to the age as well, between he's coming obviously into his 30s, so you're kind of thinking he's going to hit he is at his peak gears, especially in that centre midfield number 10 spot. It would definitely be interesting to see how Clement utilises the 2 of them. You think the same, or do you think it's really Bajrami's shirt to lose?
I think there definitely will be rotation, especially with the amount of games we've got coming up. I've never had an issue with Tom Lawrence as a rotation option. My biggest issue has been him being the main number 10. I don't think he has it. He has the legs to play, like you said, the way Clement wants his number 10 to operate, which I think Bajrami does. But as an option, the 10, I've never had an issue. Just don't want him to be that starting player and the one that we're relying on. So I think he's shown plenty of times in big games, particularly Old Firm games, that he's went missing and he's
Yeah.
kind of hid, essentially. I'm sure there was a couple of times he's come off the bench and looked quite bright. But I think the games he started in, he's kind of offered nothing and just kind of shrunk away and ended up having to come off. So my issue's not with Tom Lawrence being involved at all. Like, that being said, I do hope we don't renew his contract and we let it expire next summer. But
Yeah.
as a squad and rotation option, I've got no issue, especially if he can play like he done at the weekend. But I just really hope that going forward, especially like you say for the cost and the age profile, that Bajrami is the number 10 and hopefully we see him starting at the weekend.
Yeah, I agreed, Kai. I think, again, just as you maybe come into the contract situation, as you said, Tom's contract ends end of next year, so he's definitely playing for his future if he wants an extension to his deal. Obviously, Bajrami's come in. I think he's on a relatively long-term contract. I'm not sure how many years it is. I don't know if it was reported, Kai. Was it a 3 or 4? I don't know if it was a 3 or 4 year deal. It could be 3 or 4. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me when with the correct length of contract. But yeah, I mean, obviously going forward, you're looking at Bajrami being that number 10, first team starter. The concern you've got is, if and when Lawrence leaves the club, whether it's the end of next season or after that, we're then having to go back and do the exact same thing in trying to source and find another number 10 to compete with Bajrami. So do you think, and I know maybe slightly off topic, do you think that's something that we should look at, or do you think, I know you mentioned about maybe not extending his contract, but would it be worthwhile even having him for another year just to even have someone there as a backup to Bajrami?
I think it all depends on how much he contributes this season, to be honest, mate. Like, if he ends this season, he's got like 15 goal contributions, mostly coming from the bench, some starts here and there, then unless he's wanting a ridiculous kind of wage rise, I would say go for it. But again, I think he's one of those high earners that we probably do need to get rid of. We're not going to get any money for him. Like, we're not going to extend his contract and then sell him for a few million next summer. So essentially, we're going to have to. We're not taking a loss apart from the wages paid because we got him in on a free. But I think we're going to
Yeah,
have to accept that we're going to lose him on a free at some point. It just depends on how much he contributes this season. There could be one of the young boys from the B team in like 6 months could make a step up and kind of stake a claim to be that backup, and that could lead into next season. But I'd be very wary of doing it unless he has a really good season, especially numbers wise, unless he's adding some goals and assists and some really good performances. I think I would just let the contract run out and have to go and source that backup or use potentially a player that we've not seen yet that can play that position come through.
sure. No, I understand that, Kai. I think that for me, I think he would be a good backup. Again, if he was coming off the bench, he would at least offer something. Have a that kind of strength and depth from the bench. I don't really see him as a first team starter. I do think the sooner Bajrami kind of settles, the more likely is, as you said, especially with the cup game at the weekend. I would hope they would look to start that game. I definitely don't have an issue with Lawrence remaining at the club if he was on, if he kind of were to take a wage cut and extend the contract from there. But as you say, I think, moving forward, he's never really hit the heights that we thought he would. When he came in, obviously looked bright, and obviously since injury, he's not really had that chance to play. And maybe that in turn is what we've discussed, is that with the rotation between himself and Bajrami, he may look back to get back to his best form. He obviously looked very, very sharp and definitely benefited from the team on Sunday's game. Do you think that the players around Lawrence and Bajrami, for that matter, will help them will help us see the best of them? I think for myself, just touching on it briefly before bringing in Kai, that again, as much as Lawrence doesn't have the legs, it's maybe a similar thing to what we've discussed before with Hadji, that you need that pace and creativity around the 10 to allow him to fully express himself and hopefully get involved to a greater degree in the game. Do you think it's crucial that we try and keep the width healthy, the wide players healthy, to allow the likes of Bajrami and Lawrence to flourish in the team.
I think so. I think we're more dangerous when we've got pace in the wings as well. I think there wasn't that much threat kind of came down the right hand side with Dowell there. I get why Clement done it. Obviously likes his wingers to invert and come inside and leave that space out wide, which obviously hasn't worked as much with Tav being a wee bit leggy so far. It works on the left hand side when you're playing Cortez Matondo and you have Hefty bombing up and down, but that also gives I think the 10 the chance to drop back, which I think you need a bit of a footballing brain to be able to see where the space is. And I do think Lawrence is a good footballing brain. I think he's a good footballer. I just think his legs don't match kind of what his brain is trying to do, which is really unfortunate. I always feel the same for Hadji as well. I think intelligence in that position can only take you so far in such a physical league. I get people will probably cite players that have played at the top level in like Spain, Italy, the Premier League that haven't had legs, but they've had longevity and they've had brilliant numbers throughout their career. But we're talking about Scottish football. We're talking
Yeah,
about playing a lot of guys that have came through the lower leagues and they've been part time and now they're getting their chance at the top. Like they don't care about giving you time or sitting off whatever. They'll come right through you. They'll take the yellow card. There's none of there's no messing about, and it's something I think is quite unique to Scottish football when you compare someone that's lacking that athleticism with a footballing brain to other leagues. Like you go to Spain and you have that bit more time. It's not constant. It's not as aggressive all the time. So I think I've always said I thought someone like Hadji, I thought he would have had a better time with Alaves actually because they've done pretty well. But I think that's why you see players like Lammers going over to the Netherlands, and it's a lot less intense, a lot less fast paced. So you can see those technical players get the chance to kind of thrive, and I don't think that's a luxury you get in Scotland. I do think the good thing with Lawrence is a bit more robust than the likes of a Hadji. Like he's quite
yeah,
physical, he's
yeah,
quite strong, he will get stuck in. I think that's part of the reason why his performances haven't dropped to a ridiculously low level. Whereas I feel like that's the kind of thing you get. I know we're not talking about Hadji, but I feel that's the kind of
yeah.
thing you get when you bring Hadji, and that lack of physicality is a massive issue. So I do think there's there's still a player there in Tom Lawrence. It's just how much we kind of get out of him just now, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. And I think Bajrami coming in maybe actually helps us get more out of Lawrence, especially in this last season. So, it allows him not to be that first team starter. And as you say, I think just in the bigger games last season, he didn't, cover himself in any sort of glory. I'm hopeful that Bajrami will come in and, be able to show the talent that undoubtedly he's got. Obviously seen that in the Euros and getting the kind of bigger money moves in Italy as well. Just touching back on the international scene as well, I was just double checking that on Transfer Market that they've actually got a similar number of caps. I mean, Tom Lawrence has 23 caps, 3 goals for Wales, but that's over a 10-year period. Whereas for the kind of main national squad for Albania, as you said, Bayrami's a far more integral part of that team. He's had 28 appearances and 5 goals since September 2021. So I mean, again, the only concern I've got in terms of international duty is the likelihood is that Bajrami will be called away during the international break. So I can only hope, or we can only hope that he returns from those breaks fit and not injured. But I think that's maybe just my only other concern, Kai, is that just due to the fact he is so integral to the Albania team and in those attacking positions, the likelihood is that he could be missing some games for us, especially going away in international break and the risk of injury. I'm not sure if you feel the same, or if you think he'll maybe not be in every squad, but just wonder if the move to Scotland might impact his international career.
I think looking at this is where the Nations League kind of comes into play a wee bit. I think because of the promotion relegation, now teams that are playing the Nations League are playing against countries that should be of a similar ability. Obviously, Scotland have kind of get found out stepping up to the next level. But
Yeah,
I think when it comes to the teams Albania are playing the likes of Czech Republic and Georgia. All of those teams are trying to step up a level, so it's going to be really intense. Whereas you used to be able to go and sometimes you'd have games against, no offence, like San Marino or the Faroe Islands.
Yeah.
Whereas you're not going to get that now because those nations are all playing each other. So it's
Yeah.
a lot, like I say, more intense. They're all trying to push up because you get the chance to get that automatic Euro qualification. So it's going to be really intense every time they go away, which again, like you say, is a worry because he's such an integral part of that team where he plays off the left or in the middle. I think he's going to play a lot of minutes. They do have a lot of good players in those positions, but he's still being favoured. So I think if he comes into the Rangers squad, kind of continues form that he's had over previous season and keeps playing well, I don't think it's going to affect his chances. I think it's a good move for him instead of playing in the second division in Italy, getting to come to a team where he's going to see lots of the ball, which he's not been used to the last few years at Sassuolo because they're a very kind of defensive side, that stereotypical Italian side that you think of. Just kind of soak up the pressure and try and see what you can do going forward. But he's now coming to a team he's going to get the ball a lot, which Albania kind of had their last Nations League campaign. They're having a wee bit now that they're playing on a more level playing field and not against a lot of the bigger nations. So now he's going to be used to having the ball all the time. Gives him a chance to up his numbers, gives him a chance to play in Europe, which he's not had for a few years. So I think for his career, it's probably a really good move. I think it can highlight his ability. Like I say, the fact he's going to get on the ball a lot and he's going to be attacking a lot. It's going to allow him to use the ability that he has, hopefully get some good numbers, which benefits us, benefits his career, and probably benefits his national career as well. So I think for him, it's probably a really smart move. As much as Sassuolo probably would have been one of the better sides in Serie B, they've historically played a defensive style of football. So I think coming to a club that's going to attack and getting the ball a lot is going to do the world a good for his ability and kind of putting himself out there on the world stage.
Sure, I agree. I do think that the move is probably a positive one in both regards. We were obviously desperate to get a number 10 in, and allows him to, show what he's got on a European stage as well as in a physical league, maybe a more so physical league than a technical league in Scotland. So it'll definitely be interesting how as I said, the manager utilises them again. We've touched on the fact that both Lawrence and Bajrami have played in wide positions, both for obviously the weekend, and then internationally for Albania. So it'll be interesting to see. Do you think there'll be any point that Clement would potentially put both of them into the team and maybe interchange them in the 10 spot and out wide? Do you think that's something Clement would look at?
Part of me hopes not, but I do think there's a big chance of it. The fact, like you said, both of them have played in the two positions. It could lead to some interesting interchanges. It could be something that absolutely works because both are going to like to cut inside. You're still going to have Hefty on the overlap. If the two of them can link up well, then like I say, it is something that could work. It's not something that I would want to see personally. I do think we're more dangerous with kind of direct pacey wingers on the wing, the likes of somebody like Cortez or Matondo. I think they're a lot more dangerous playing on the left than Bajrami or Lawrence would be. But later on in games or games where you need a bit more creativity instead of just like raw natural pace, I think something like that could potentially work. And I do think it's something the manager probably would try at one point. Like I say, if it's needed late in a game and you need something a wee bit different, I do think it could be an interesting option.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it was just something that kind of popped into my head, and again, something that had been touched on at the weekend, that but the fact that Bajrami came on at the left hand side, and I definitely don't want to see him out there for any length of time. I know Curry kind of touched on it there in the comments about the fact that he came on the left hand side. I do think, probably same as yourself, Kai, that Bajrami has come in to play that number 10 spot. The fact that we've got Cortez coming back, Czerny hopefully coming back from illness, for the width, as well as potentially utilising Hefty in that position as well. Hopefully, once Ridvan comes back, we could push Hefty further forward as well. So there's definitely options to play around them both. But I do think that Bajrami will be the starter, and maybe rotate with Lawrence. But again, I understand what you mean. I think the teams that we play, predominantly have a low block. So again, having an extra number 10 on would definitely help break that down, especially in the latter stages of games if we've been struggling or up against the wall with certain teams, especially in the league. Maybe not so much in the cup, but definitely in the league games against some opposition. It should hopefully bear us some good fruit. But yeah, I think we'll look to wrap up, Kai. I think just the last thoughts for me are what do you think the future holds for both players? Do you see them being integral parts of the team this season? One overtake the other, or what are your thoughts on Lawrence and Bajrami this season?
I really hope Bajrami starts from the weekend being the main man in that position. I think that's why he's been brought on. I think it's where he should be. Like I said, I've got no issue with Lawrence being that bench player or say starting in cup games. I think he still does have ability. He's not a terrible footballer. Do you know what I mean? He's been off form and looked a bit unfit, but he looked really sharp last weekend. See if he can provide that from like rotationally starting games or from coming off the bench, then I'm more than happy for him to be involved. But I really hope come Saturday we see the start of Bajrami being the main man in the number 10 and Lawrence being that good solid rotation option from the bench.
Sure, I tend to agree. I think, as I said, for myself, especially in the bigger games and lately in Europe, I'd like to, see Bajrami play and start as that number 10. Again, against the likes of Dundee United, no disrespect to them, but you're expecting the likes of Tom Lawrence to show up well against the kind of lower end teams in the Scottish League, because a player of his quality should be able to do that with kind of little, I say little effort. You know what I mean? It should be a walk in the park for him. And again, it did seem to show that when he is fit and he probably knows he's got competition for that number 10 spot, that hopefully it'll bring the best out of him that we've maybe not seen through whatever, whether it's been injury or just out of favour with the management team. But yeah, I think with that being said, we'll wrap things up. Kai, any last comments, any last thoughts before we close out?
No, like I say, mate, just really hope we see Bajrami starting at the weekend. And if you're watching this and you enjoy the content, please subscribe. We're so close to hitting 2K, which would be an incredible number to hit with 6 months of the channel being live. So just thank you for your support throughout. If you do enjoy it, like, share, get everyone you know to subscribe, and hopefully we hit that 2K soon.
Yeah, definitely echo those comments, Kai. I think if you're watching after the fact, you say like, share, subscribe. Make sure you post about us on social media. Obviously, like both of us like to see that 2K subs number getting hit over the weekend, hopefully after a positive result. But yeah, if there's nothing else, we'll close out. Again, thanks very much for watching this video. It's been Nedim Bajrami versus Tom Lawrence. That's been Kai, I've been Bob, and every night is a Rangers Journal night.